Welcome to ShiftWatch. I'm your host, Starbuck. In this episode, here's a bit more from my exchange with Mr. Gray on experiencer interviews, sharing bits of my Telos experience with the Lemurians. Next, yesterday's X-class flare disrupts radio signals on the planet. Here's an update from Nemesis Maturity. Then, Scanner Guy 1968 was out recently and captured this within an hour. Pretty easy given these conditions to see the activity with the naked eye. This video is a good way to begin to discern seeing the difference between aircraft with their navigational lights blinking, satellites, and other interstellar conveyances. And finally, right before I had an opportunity to meet Adam Rickus, an Australian filmmaker a few years back, he sought out Sam the Illusionist in India to get answers on visiting Inner Earth and his understanding of my own involvement with the Lemurians and Telos. Here is one of Adam's initial channeling sessions with Sam that explains his curiosities regarding Lemurians and me.
They pointed to a seat for me to take a spot, and then three of them sat on this side, three of them sat on this side, and progressively they each spent a couple minutes explaining who they were and what they did. Now, I remember Alex because he's been my tour guide, and I recognized the Dama, so I know who he is, but the rest of them, I'll only remember the name of the woman at the very beginning of the table, because from this point on, it seems like she's going to chair the meeting. She's the one who's speaking. And she begins by explaining that the reason I've been asked to come is that the Lemurians and the council have also met. And they sense that this shift is imminent as well. And they want humanity to know they're here, that they have technologies that they're interested in sharing with us once our vibration matches theirs. That's the only thing they're holding out for. So my heart leapt. Somehow over the last 6 months, I had been drawn to the same conclusion. And in my heart, winter solstice of 2020 seemed like a damn good target, understanding that the reset of all these cosmic cycles took place in 2012. Okay, there was enough time now for our entire solar system to find its way into this new ion field coming out of the central sun. So whatever elevated photon energy is coming our way, here's where it's coming from. So this whole idea of some solar phenomenon hitting Earth and expanding something totally makes scientific sense to me, because it was science that pointed out in the early 60s that this band was there. So here we are entering that phase. I see it, they see it. Now they're going to explain why I'm here. And the first reason they gave me is they said, we can see that you can hold fifth dimensional awareness. Well, I always thought that, we always like to think that we can think at that level, but now I know that there are discerning levels, that there are two perspectives I always have when I see a condition. I see my third dimensional reflex that kicks in with all my emotions like all the rest of you. And then there's this higher elevated intelligence way of looking at things that help you tune out all the crappy white noise that's just a distraction in order for you to focus on what's really important. So, okay, thanks. I appreciate that validation. The second reason that she said, we understand you're the protector of Gaia and we've been looking for you. Well, I had heard that phrase in an ayahuasca journey 2 years earlier, where that's what Mother Ayahuasca had told me I was. I didn't know what it was, didn't even hear the phrase until Shyama mentions it during this little endeavor. The last reason, more lined up with, I must have been Lemurian before, because when it comes time for this reunification of inner Earth and the surface, I was asked to be an emissary. Well, if I understand the way that things are now, I incarnated for that very purpose. That really, in order for us to affect any change, if humanity was considered hands off by all this higher intelligence so that we would evolve on our own, in my opinion, that all changed in the 40s after we had discovered atomic power and weaponized it. And when we demonstrated what we could do when we dropped it on Hiroshima, that we, as carbon-based beings here for 80 to 100 years, just demonstrated how we could damage a cosmic asset. The Earth is not ours. And so to destroy it in that way made no sense whatsoever. So here's where I could tell that higher influences was going to start to help. Now, they still can't help directly because they can't enter this place. But what can? Oh, we can incarnate here and somehow along our journey, remember who we are, hopefully wake up fast enough so that we can answer this clarion call of whatever is taking place here so that we can assist in the shift that's taking place.
We are the Lemurians now, communicating through the vibration system of this channel. We are now in communication from our location in the landmass referred to by your people in the language vibratory sound system as Mount Shahasta. Inside Mount Shahasta, we find our consciousness residing, and we are here to address an entity known as Adam, who desires to visit us inside Mount Shahasta. We can already sense that this entity's consciousness is pondering the thought of visiting us and has many a times found itself doing so in the astral planes while using its imaginative body. Therefore, we are now going to address the questions which are placed today before us. The first question, which pertains to does Telos exist inside Mount Shahasta? In this regard, we must state that inside Mount Shahasta there is a dimensional city known as Telos. However, this requires the senses of inner awareness to be perceived and sensed, as the city known as Telos does not exist in the third density reality. Therefore, it may be difficult for entities in the form of human physical body to sense it with the five senses. Therefore, we can state that Telos exists inside Mount Shahasta. Furthermore, the other query, which relates to is the entity known as Adam able to visit it sometime in the next week? We must state that this visitation is permitted, and also we must state that this entity can visit us anytime it desires, using its astral body which can sense our presence. This can be done by this entity known as Adam while visiting inside Mount Shahasta, which can be perceived by the senses of the third density physical body. Inside Mount Shahasta, it can enter into the silence within the mind by keeping the inner vibration of its thought forms pure and empty. This will then provide it with the ability to sense our place of residence known as Telos, which is created from a type of crystalline grid, which may be harder to describe in your language, as such objects and aspects of reality do not yet exist in the third density timeline. Furthermore, the other query which relates to what is it like over there, we must state that here there is only unity, consciousness, peace, serenity, and positivity. The only aspect we have here which is of value is our own consciousness. We consider consciousness to be the most valuable aspects, since without consciousness there cannot be any creation. In our social memory complex, there are a total of 4.8 million beings who are primarily working. The main objective for us to learn fully and to manipulate love and compassion for such aspects. Our consciousness is also expanding rapidly. Our societal system primarily is consisted of entities from different levels of experiences who have graduated into the later fourth density and exist in the form of light body for understanding how the system of inner vibration works and the system of wisdom which is to be learned at this time. The other query which relates to what type of technology do we use? In this aspect, we must state that the type of technology which we have been using primarily consists of consciousness stream. To understand that all technology is created from consciousness. Without consciousness, there cannot be any technological aspects. Our focus in understanding how our consciousness is a technological device is the main function of the reality of our work at this time inside Mount Shasta. The other query which relates to any information about Lowell Johnson and how can he assist with ascension. The entity known as Lowell Johnson, as we can sense, is primarily trying to work for the attainment of more freedom in terms of consciousness and free will, and has been in contact with us through its inner self many times. Since our vibrations match, it can assist in the ascension by transferring our information, which primarily does not exist in the form of your language, but in the form of vibration which can be transmitted and translated by its mind in a pure form, for allowing the people of Earth to understand fully our information, much like this channel is performing